dun 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 dun. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-da-dum. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. This is the hard part. Way too high for me at this age. Are you kidding me? Hi, my friends. Hello, wonderful to see you all. Hello, Tara from Western Australia. Happy Monday. Hello, everyone. Hi from Ohio and Wyoming and another Ohio and Dallas. It's wonderful to see you all, my friends. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joette Calabrese, and every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, this is what we do. We do the same thing every Monday night. We learn homeopathy. I teach you what I know. I share with you my information that I've gleaned through the years, through my practice, through my studies, through my teachings. And we gather together, and I like to hear from you too. I love to hear your input. And for those of you who do know me, hi everyone. It's great to see you all. It's wonderful. Oh yeah, and there's Julie from Brisbane, Australia. And then hi Christy from Washington. Christy's a traveling person. She's always a traveling. Yeah, so happy to have learned about ambrosia. Yes, you bet. Ambrosia does it for me. Ambrosia is a really great remedy. But tonight, we are going to talk about addictions. We're back to our addiction story because it's important. I think it's really valuable. I don't want you to think in terms of, oh, well, I kind of overshop. That's a little different than an addiction. We're talking about pathologies here. Generally, in homeopathy, we want to use something that is a pathology in order to determine a medicine to be taken as a result of that pathology. That was a circular discussion, a statement. I'm not sure that made sense, but my point is we don't treat just because. We use these medicines because they're medicines, and they're there to be used to help someone who is suffering. So, tonight we're going to talk about addictions to shopping, and then we'll talk a little bit about hoarding a little, because that's kind of fits that a little bit. It touches it. Now, let me also say that sometimes people go through events in their lives and they find all they want to do is shop, and then it kind of tapers off or just stops for a couple of different reasons. I think many people became addicted to shopping online during 2020, 21. 22 for psychological reasons, right? It was what are you going to do? You're all alone, or you're without your friends. You can't get into a store. You can't have that human contact. You can't have that dynamic relationship, or we couldn't. We're not letting that happen again. Now, are we, my friends? We're not letting that happen again. So, addiction to shopping. First, I want to say that I have known that there's one very important remedy. And this is a remedy that keeps coming up every week when we talk about addictions. And we skipped last week and went into allergies, and swelling eyes and itchy nose and hay fever and all of that business. So if you have any of that, go right back to that, and you can learn some remedies that have been useful for me as well as many others. But we see nux vomica, my friends, over and over and over. It's not the only medicine, and I don't want you to think automatically, but I want you to have that in the back of your mind, that nux vomica, generally I like to use it in a 200, sometimes in a 30, but nux vomica is a great medicine for avarice, almost like a greedy behavior, an avarice behavior. When someone they're over the top in modern living, and shopping is an aspect of modern living. Very much in the head, also emotional, trying to fill in like a hole of sorts. So this is what I did. This is what we always do in homeopathy. Other than using a protocol, now I don't have a specific protocol for this, other than automatically I would think first of Nux Vomica. But we go to our meta repertory, and I like Robin Murphy's. This is the 4th edition. And so for those of you who don't own one of these, it can be very useful. It's not going to give you exactly what you're looking for. It's going to give you a pathway. It's going to give you some ideas. It will open up your world as to see what the suffering of humanity encompasses. So I go to the mind section, which is in the very beginning of this particular book. And in the mind section, I looked under greedy, avarice. And I went to page 150. And on page 150, do I have it here? I had it marked. Avarice, greedy. There are a lot of remedies here. Lots of remedies to choose from. And so for those of you who don't know anything about a repertory, these are not sentences. These are simply a list of homeopathic medicines categorized by their frequency in their use. So if you see them in bold or underlined, they're more often to be the medicine that can be of the greatest use. So I'm going to show you, if I can, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, I always have a hard time doing it because I'm doing it backwards. Greedy. Now, greedy is kind of a broad statement, isn't it? Because it doesn't mean that somebody is shopping heavily. I'm going to show you from this right here. Can you see that? Greedy. See all those medicines that are there listed? Now, greedy is only one word we would consider. It's not the whole picture because we don't have a statement or a rubric in this book that tells us exactly what to use for shopping addictions. So we have to kind of go around it. Another one is on page 135, which is a fear of poverty. Again, a shopping addiction doesn't mean that someone will have a fear of poverty or that they have one. It's simply a piece of the picture. And that's on page 135 of our repertory. And again, a very large rubric with lots of remedies to be considered. Then we also have spending in order to not be short of money in the future. Now, that's getting closer if that happens to be the reason that the person is has a shopping addiction. And my friends, there are only 3 remedies in that rubric. Arsenicum album, Stana metallicum, and, yes, my friends, Nux Vomica. And Nux Vomica is italicized, which means that it's a little bit more important. Spending in order to not be short of money in the future. Nux Vomica. Now, I have to say that because of what we all went through in the last 3 years, there was a lot of fear of what was going to come of the economy, and people hoarded. But I have to say, I don't really like the word hoarding. I think what people were doing was trying to survive. Hoarding has a negative connotation. It leads us to believe that someone is being immoral. And I have to say that in general, for people to stockpile toilet paper or canned goods or frozen foods, dried goods and things like that, I think it was a survival mechanism. So even though it's called hoarding and it has a bad connotation, I don't think in that situation that we could even say that was true hoarding. Now, there's another aspect of this. Because when we say that someone has an addiction, especially to be a behavioral addiction, not an addiction to a psychotropic drug or a synthetic drug that is prescribed, and more often than not, that is one of the great addictions of our society, is addictions to synthetic prescribed drugs. But an addiction that is more psychological, I would call obsessive compulsive. Wouldn't you? Yes, I would call it an obsessive behavior, obsessive compulsive. And then we look at page 206 and see what remedies show up there. Obsessive compulsive. Now, when I teach these kinds of psychological conditions, in my courses. The course that I spend the most time on it is called mindful homeopathy. So if you're so inclined, you're interested in learning about what psychological aspects affect, or what homeopathic medicines affect what psychological aspects, that's the course for you, mindful homeopathy, and you simply go to Joette's Learning Center. But should you not be interested in going that far, I'm going to tell you that under the obsessive compulsive rubric, we have on page, let's find that, page 206, as I recall. Obsessive, here it is, 206. And Nux vomica shows up quite proudly in that rubric as well. But we also have arsenicum, carcinosin, hyoscyamus, medurinum, Nux vomica, pulsatilla, staphysagra. Those are the most noteworthy medicines in that rubric. There are secondary medicines that are also quite valuable. But here's Nux vomica again. Now, in dealing with protocols for obsessive compulsive behavior, I often automatically use aurum metallicum. And that is a protocol that I gleaned from having worked side by side with the doctors Banerjee in Calcutta years ago. And I'm looking here at this rubric, and aurum is in there, but it's not a very noteworthy remedy here. But Nux vomica again. That obsessive compulsive, that's a very broad statement. It is broad. And we want something, if we possibly can, addiction to shopping. So we have to kind of patchwork this together and make it work in a way that will eventually represent the person that we're thinking about, that we want to help. Now here's another way we can look at this, my friends. Yeah, you're right, Tara. Arsenicum album shows up a lot. You bet. Arsenicum album is a very good one. So let's look at it from a different point of view. Why does that person have addictions to shopping, an addiction to shopping? From a broken heart? Could it be that they just went through a divorce? And this is a kind of a boomerang effect? In that case, I always think of hyoscyamus, and there it is under obsessive compulsive in that rubric. Hyoscyamus is a great medicine for a broken heart and jealousy that's often related to something like that. Now, we're not just going to use this. I expect that what I'm doing here for you today, my friends, is not very specific. I'm kind of giving you a rounded out picture so that you know, if you're interested in going this far, that this is the kind of thinking I want you to do. We're not automatically just going to choose hyoscyamus. We're also not automatically going to choose Nux vomica. Instead, we're going to look in these rubrics and see and piece it apart, pull it apart. Hyoscyamus, H-Y-O-S. Somebody will write it in there for you, is the abbreviation, hyoscyamus. How about if someone has an addiction to shopping because they've been shamed? They lost their job. They were made to feel foolish. They feel obsequious to others. They feel stepped upon. They feel in great need of some pride. And on the other hand, the shopping can fulfill that to a certain degree. Then I would think, if there's shame involved, embarrassment, social embarrassment, feeling less than, because there was recently, especially recent, but it doesn't have to be recent, perhaps they were even abused, maybe even maybe a rape victim, maybe someone who's been abused by a boss, a neighbor, a spouse, a parent. And now the boomerang effect is compulsive shopping. If you see something that tight, we're going to think of another medicine, Staphysagria. You got it, Carenza. You got it. You're absolutely right. Right on the mark. Staphysagria. Staphysagria. Somebody asked me to spell hyoscyamus, and I couldn't do it. I'm just doing the abbreviation, but you'll find it if you look at HYOS. Yes, Staphysagria. What if this shopping addiction is a desire for love and attention from someone, or from many people, a number of people, a desire to be loved? Now, everyone has a desire to be loved. And let me go back and say we've all had the sensation of being shamed. And yes, we can also say that there's always been a spending in order to protect from future loss of income or loss of money. All of these fit. What we're talking about is for many humans across the board. It's part of the human experience to a certain degree. But when we see that any one of these becomes paramount in someone's life, the desire to be loved, the desire to be paid attention to, a child who needs more affection from the parent and can't get it. Oh, look at you, Katie. Yeah. Pulsatilla. Pulsatilla, P-U-L-S-A-T-I-L-L, T-I-L-L-A, pulsatilla. You bet. A desire for love, aside from what's expected of us as human beings, right? How about if there is, an aspect of this where the person feels as though the world is such a toxic place. It's so, toothpaste is toxic, and the sprays on foods are toxic, and the media is toxic, and the neighbors sprayed the lawn with pesticides. Everything's toxic. What a world we live in. And the air is not clean, and et cetera, et cetera. What would we say? Yes, my friends, look at you, Judy. You bet. You bet. Tara, you bet. Arsenicum album. Arsenicum album could be a very good medicine for addictions to shopping when it's related to someone who is feeling that toxicity. Now, let me also say parenthetically, there are a lot of toxins in the world, and it's now more than ever. On the other hand, my friends, we have something special here. We have homeopathy. We have a medicine that has the ability to uproot conditions that conventional medicine can't even imagine. I just met with a lovely student of mine whose daughter was my client for a few years, who had very, very serious allergies, anaphylaxis reactions. She couldn't eat this, she couldn't go here, she couldn't smell that, she couldn't be around this. They had to be very careful. She couldn't have any soy, she couldn't have dairy, the list went on and on and on, because if she did, her lips would swell, her uvula would swell in her throat would swell, the mucosa in her mouth would swell. Very dangerous situation to be in. And I remember her coming to me and saying, originally when we first started meeting, maybe it was 4 years ago, something like that, really, homeopathy can uproot allergies, can get rid of this? My friends, study this medicine. Study it. Learn it. Learn it. It's a life changer. This is where we should be. This is what we should know. We have been taught that there is no cure for allergies. We've been taught that if you get a MRSA infection coursing through your veins, you'll have it forever. We've been taught that there's nothing that can be done for rheumatoid arthritis. We've been taught that fevers are dangerous in childhood illnesses. We've been taught that for every disease there is a synthetic patented drug. It's the opposite, my friends. It's the opposite. Remedy for morbid thoughts because of all the toxic stuff in modern life? Yes, Alice. Arsenicum album is certainly a possibility. Now, when I tell you, when I give you these hints, this information, I don't expect you to go and just take Arsenicum album, just call it a day, and Bob's your uncle. No, I don't want you to do that. I want you to crack open your materia medica, whether it's my materia medica or it's a more in-depth one, or if you don't own one, then by all means, I want you to go online and read the free materia medicas. There are plenty of them. Tara says, my husband had allergies for 40 years. After 4 months of remedies, homeopathic remedies, he is now hay fever free. That's the way it works. Now, does it mean that it's a complete cure? Does it mean that he'll never, ever have a response again? No, no, no. He might have a little, but we're looking for 3 magic markers. I talk about these 3 magic markers all the time. Less intensity to the symptoms, lasting for a shorter period of time, and a larger space between each episode. And that's how we know that the medicine is acting. If we can follow any one of those 3 or 2 of them or all 3 of them, we know that we're using the right medicine and we're moving it along. We're going to undo. I used to have this image in my mind when I work with clients, as though I was putting my hands on their shoulders and turning them in the direction in whence they came. It used to be that the hay fever was a little less, but then I had pneumonia and I got antibiotic, and then it got worse. So let's go past before the pneumonia. And before the pneumonia, I got this bee sting and I went to the emergency room and I was given steroid. Okay, let's go further back. And then before that, I used to have these stomach aches and I would get these drugs for stomach ache. And I had ear infections and I was given antibiotics. And if we look at the timeline, what was the cause of all the disease, my friends? Now, I'm not saying that we don't have genetics. These are epigenetics. He said, we get what we've already got, whatever the condition is that we in our family or that we ourselves have inherited. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa behind us. Whatever they had, there's a mix of that. That an ability to play the piano like a champ, great ability to understand math and calculations, but hay fever and some eczema here. So we get all that beautiful mixture of all that gorgeous DNA when the little sperm meets the egg, and we create this human being with these genetics. Now, if the baby is born to a mother who's not taking drugs, and it can be a home birth, and it can be an unmedicated birth, and the mom was eating good foods that she made herself, and then she nursed her baby extensively, 2 years, 3 years. And then the food that she gives the baby is as pure as she can find, and she makes it herself. And she stays away from all of the medicaments that our society has been bamboozled into using. Then the epigenetics don't really glom on quite so much. Yes, they're going to be the next door neighbor who sprays pesticides, and yes, there's going to be this or that, but we try to cut back on that as much as we possibly can and keep it as clean as possible. So I don't fear the toxins. I'm going to tell you, I used to. I no longer fear that because it's important that we understand this medicine, and when we start fearing toxins, as this woman just said so well, morbid thoughts because of all the toxic stuff in modern life, it's often Arsenicum album. But I urge you, Alice, and all of those of you who are thinking of this, read your Materia Medica and make sure Arsenicum album fits. Compromised flora. You're right, Mariah. Compromised flora. Now, how could somebody get a compromised flora? How that could happen? Could it have anything to do with antibiotics, birth control pills, steroids? What do you think? Could it be any of those things? And then added on top of that, the foods that we eat? You bet. What if we have someone who has a shopping addiction and they have depression? Is it because of the depression or is it the other way around? Doesn't matter. The depression and the shopping addiction are all one in this person. What medicine might We consider terrain. Yes, Mariah, you bet. You got it. You got it. I know, Heather. I wish I had known earlier, too. Well, yeah, all of us, starting earlier in our lives. You are describing my beautiful daughter and how she and her husband care for their 16-month-old son, who is amazing and so smart. No, you know, Watson, we are using Dr. Isaac Golden's homeoprophylactis protocol. So awesome. Natmure, Cassandra says, that's her answer for the depression. Natmure is a great medicine for depression. Absolutely. Yep. Appendectomy, your file cabinet of viral memory is removed. Can Nux vomica help with toxins? Arsenicum album didn't work for me. Yes, it can, but it depends on what you mean by toxins. And you're depending on what it is. What are the symptoms? Are we talking about someone who has a gut problem where there's obstinate constipation? Is it someone who is drinking too much alcohol or eating too many foods that are of modern sort? Yes. What do we think? Depression? Tell me about depression and the possibility of using a medicine that could be associated with shopping addictions and depression. Natmure is a very good choice, but I've got another one in mind too. Would Aurum be a good choice? Angela, ding, 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 ding. You've got it. Aurum metallicum. Aurum, gold, A-U-R-U-M, Aurum metallicum. Aurum metallicum is a capital remedy choice for depression. And it's we usually use that in a 200. And any one of these I would use. Yes, you got it. Susan's got it too. Francine says, yep, what about Aurum? Yes. Yep. Yeah, we just said Aurum, A-U-R-U-M, Gina, is Aurum metallicum. And if you look up Aurum metallicum in a Materia Medica and read up on it, I want you to remember, when you read these medicines in a Materia Medica, don't read them as though you must have this symptom and all these symptoms that are all lined up in the Materia Medica. It would be impossible. You wouldn't be alive. Is Aurum good for uprooting manic depression? It can often be, Jen. Hi, Jen. Yes, it can. And usually when we use Aurum metallicum, it's 200C, and we use it every 3 days. These other medicines, if we're going to use them, are usually in a 200, and it's not a bad idea to use it every other day. But here's the most important part of this, my friends. One of the most important parts. We don't take these medicines as though they are supplements or vitamins and take them forever. No, these are medicines. They stimulate gently. It's a very gentle stimulation, and sometimes only one dose can do it. Sometimes once a day you'll do it, depending on which one we're talking about and what condition. Sometimes it only is needed for a week. As soon as it is improved, we don't say, well, I got to take it forever because it's so improved. No, my friends. When these medicines act, stop. Stop now. I don't want you on medicines forever. I want you gently touched by a medicine, and then your body just takes off and finishes it on its own. And if you need it again, what do? You return back to it again. Yes, Aurum has been so good for my family. Aurum is amazing for depression. Thank God for it. Yes, I'm reading these, yes. Pulsatilla for shopping addiction with need for love. You bet. Yeah, I would use it in a 200 or a 30 for Pulsatilla. How do we know when to space or how to space it out? Well, I'm giving you the approximate spacing out now, but then I want you to observe, and see, make sure that what you're doing, if it's acting, you back off. Let it finish it on its own. We're only looking for a gentle stimulation. Now, sometimes we go on longer periods of time, but many times, especially for those who are just learning this, I don't want you to take these for a long period of time. Don't want you to take them a long time. You're better off stopping, checking, making sure that you're all right about it. It doesn't make sense. Is this a good medicine for me? Am I seeing some improvement? And don't expect to find going from depression all the way to ecstasy. It's not going to be like that. It's going to go from depression or obsessive compulsive behavior or addiction to shopping by just finding yourself, I'm not so up for it right now. I don't think I'm going to shop today. I don't think I'll do it. Or, I don't feel so, I don't need to wash my hands 20 times today. It just feels like I'll just wash them 3 or 4 times. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. So addictions to shopping, there are many ways to approach this. I'm giving you the tip of the iceberg, my friends. There's much more. But should you be interested in psychological conditions that can be addressed with homeopathy, such as aurum metallicum and pulsatilla and nux vomica, Staph aureus, arsenicum, check out Joette's Learning Center and go to the courses. Take a look at the courses and scroll down and go to Mindful Homeopathy. Okay, my friends, I'm going to dash off. I've got a big group tonight that I'm going to be teaching. And so if you're not studying with us in our gateway, do consider it. And meanwhile, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Because now we're on Facebook and X and Rumble and YouTube and, of course, my Mighties. And it's wonderful to see you all. Love it. You're right. Hoarding, I didn't get to it. We'll go to hoarding next time. It's similar, but we'll go to hoarding next time. Okay, my friends, it's wonderful to see you. God bless you all. Mwah! See you next Monday. Bye now.
With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. My family needs me, so I must know our remedies. How much to take, how often to treat, and when to stop, and when to repeat. With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. Athuzanodary, elementary with arnica head, arsenicum fed, spigelia slither, orms from wither, no more. My family needs me, so I improve my memory. Not only the rems, but how often to treat, and when to stop, and when to repeat. With your homeopathic protocols, learn your remedies. Bellaso red and arnica head, drosera bark, ignatia dark, source of frigid and cuprum to rigid, and crude itches, calicum, monicum, let it melt on your gum, bovies to wheat are some great ways to treat ya. La 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 la, homeopathic protocols, learn your remedies. With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. My family needs me, so I must know our remedies. How much to take, how often to treat, and when to stop, and when to repeat. With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. Athusa no dairy, it's elementary with arnica head, arsenicum fed, spigelia slither, orms from wither, no more than my family needs me, so I improve my memory. Not only the rems, but how often to treat, and when to stop, and when to repeat. With your homeopathic protocols, learn your remedies. Bella so red and arnica head, drosera bark, ignatia dark, source of frigid and cuprum to rigid, and crude itches, calicum, bonicum, let it melt on your gum, bovies to weed are some great ways to treat ya. La 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 la, homeopathic protocols, learn your remedies.